What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back. So if you guys have been keeping up with me since I've come back to YouTube, I did share with you all that I did have surgery back in September and I did have a hysterectomy. I mentioned that over in my life update video, and I asked you guys if you all wanted me to share my experience, and so many of you guys said yes. Like, honestly, the feedback was so positive and at the same token overwhelming, and only overwhelming because I felt as though so many people are going through the same exact things that I went through. And when I was going through my situation, I felt like there was no one for me to talk to. There's definitely not a lot of information out there as it relates to fibroids. So you guys wanted me to share. I do want to use my platform for good and be as open and transparent about my experience as I possibly can. So what I did is I jotted down some questions that I had along the way that I thought would be beneficial and share my experience and my knowledge of what I went through. Just a quick disclaimer: one, I am not telling anyone to go out there and get a hysterectomy at all. That is definitely not what this video is for. It's all from my personal experience. And two, I am not a medical professional whatsoever, so I am definitely speaking to you guys as a patient, and I'm speaking to you guys as someone that felt so defeated along the way. So I'm hoping that I'm able to kind of shed some light on the whole experience with you guys, because so many of you said that you were thinking about it, or that was your options from communicating with your doctor, or you were just going through fibroid issues and things like that, and you guys wanted me to share. So that is the purpose of this video. As always, girl, before we dive right in, if this is your first time here, then hello. Hey girl, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Nina, and I hope that you enjoyed this video and my energy just enough to click that subscribe button. If you are a returning squad member, then what's up, squad? Welcome back. Go ahead and click that notification bell before you leave so that you get alerts each and every time I upload. So let's get started, guys. Alright guys, so as I mentioned, I just jotted down some questions on my phone. So again, to start off, I did have my hysterectomy when I turned 35, almost 36. I did have it September 8, 2020. So I am about a little over 2 months out from my surgery, and I wanted to wait to do this video until I had my 6-week checkup, just to let you guys know what happened there, if I've been experiencing any side effects or anything like that. So that's why it's taken a minute for me to get this video out. I did want to have my 6-week checkup so that I can come to you guys just like on a clean slate and share my entire experience with you all. So the first question that I jotted down as if I was talking to myself, it is, how long was I dealing with issues related to fibroids? So to answer that question honestly, I cannot pinpoint like the exact month or time or year. I just know that after I had my daughter, my cycles became like increasingly painful, and I was like really heavy as far as my cycles, and I did start experiencing blood clotting. So the first fibroid like on record that was noticed was back in 2014, and that is when I went to my doctor for a routine checkup. And during those checkups, which you should definitely be doing, girl, go to the doctor every year and get you a checkup. Do that. I encourage you to do that. So if you don't hear anything else, girl, go to the doctor and get your yearly physical every year. So girl, I went to the doctor. You have a conversation. They always ask you about your last cycle, and that's when I had mentioned to her how heavy my cycles were, the clotting, and the pain that I was experiencing during my cycles. I would have chills, I would have fever, I would get extremely bloated. It was just overall very painful. So they decided to do an ultrasound on top of my stomach as well as vaginal, and that is when the first fibroid was located. And at the time in 2014, it was really small. I was given a pamphlet and I was basically told, don't worry about it, it may or may not grow, and then that was it. And if I really think about it, knowing everything I know now, I just really feel like a lot of doctors are not educated in the fibroid area. So instead of saying a lot, they really don't say nothing. And it just leads to a lot more questions. And sometimes it can lead to a bigger situation if someone would have been more knowledgeable at the beginning. That's just my personal opinion based off of my experience. So 2014 is when it started. And at that time, I didn't know anything about fibroids or anything like that. So that was definitely a learning curve for me. So as far as other treatments that I did before I decided on a hysterectomy were several. So if we back up to 2016, I actually had to get some blood work done because I noticed that my cycles had gotten worse than they were 2 years prior or a few years prior than that. And I got blood work done, and because I was losing so much blood every month, it led me to have to see a hematologist to help with my iron as well as my blood. So my case had gotten that severe to where I was not only seeing my primary care doctor, I started seeing a hematologist as well as an OBGYN. So my hematologist had recommended for me to do iron IV infusions, and I was just totally against that. That's just not something that I personally wanted to do. And so he just decided to have me take 2 iron pills a day. And even with me taking 2 iron pills a day and going to see him every 90 days, my blood count wasn't where it needed to be because I was still having my cycles every month, and I was losing that much blood every single month. Sorry that I keep saying blood, but y'all, I don't know what else to say because that's just what it is. But my cycle was that strong to where I was losing so much every single month, and by the time my levels got back up, it was time for me to have another cycle. So I started to take 2 iron pills a day with the advice of my doctor. I started the Lupron treatment, which was the worst experience of my entire life so far. Like, I can honestly say that was the worst decision that I could have agreed to, because I was a whole hot mess. So I gained so much weight. I had severe night sweats. I started growing facial hair. I went through a mild depression because basically what the Lupron does, one, is painful. Girl, I don't like shots, and they take the needle and the medicine out of the freezer. I legit would see them do that, and you get a shot in your hip, and it was every 6 months, I believe, that I got the shot. And you could only do it for a year, or was it every 3 months? I forget. It wasn't every month though. I think it was every 3 months or every 6 months. I'm almost certain it was every 3 months. That you get the shot, and you are only supposed to do it for up to 1 year, but it pushes your body into menopausal-like symptoms, while at the same token, it's supposed to be shrinking the fibroids. So at this time now, I had 2 fibroids, and they were a nice size, and I was told that I wouldn't gain weight, I would still be fine, I just wouldn't have a cycle, and that would be the main side effect that I had. That was definitely not the case, especially for me, it was not. girl, it was like traumatic. Like, it was bad. Just the side effects of it all together were awful. The fibroids did not shrink, and I had to make them give me another ultrasound. So from 2014 up until 2016, I had several visits to the doctor. I had several ultrasounds. I had talked to several doctors, and that's another thing that I'm going to get into in a bit is doctors. We're definitely going to talk about that. So the Lupron treatment it just was not the move, okay? So if you are experiencing the whole Lupron treatment and it's working for you, definitely do you, girl. But my personal experience, no ma'am, absolutely not. And I don't regret doing it because I feel like everything happened the way that it was supposed to happen for a reason. But at the time, I regretted doing it. It was so painful and it just wasn't it. I also tried a birth control before I did the Lupron treatment, and it just wasn't working. And that was my biggest thing. Like, I didn't just want to start taking birth control just to take birth control and to say that I'm taking a supplement because it's not fixing the problem, because my fibroids were growing and now I had 2 instead of 1, and they were both big and I was still having painful cycles. So that's why the Lupron even came into conversation. So I did that for about a year. I did it the full entire year. And from the transition from the Lupron to my birth control that I stayed on for about 3 years, I think I was on the birth control for 2 going into 3 years, my doctors switched. And as far as doctors, it was really difficult for me to sit across from a doctor and talk to a doctor about what I was experiencing that did not look like me, because I continued to hear that the reason why I had fibroids is because I was black. Girl, black women are not the only women that have fibroids, but I was told that over and over again, and I felt like I was brushed off and I felt like they didn't take me serious. So the first time that I talked to an OB about a hysterectomy, she completely dismissed me and she told me that my case wasn't severe enough. Girl, how much more severe does it have to be? So I talked to another doctor and I was told again that I was black. I talked to another doctor and I was told the same thing, that my case wasn't severe enough. So doing this, I'm still taking a birth control, and now the birth control that I'm taking, it only allows me to have a cycle every 3 months. Because clearly the Lupron wasn't working. So I decided that it was best for my body just to do a supplement as far as birth control, because they wanted to do the NuvaRing, I think that's what it's called, and I just wasn't about that. And I basically had a doctor that straight up told me that I needed to make up my mind if I wanted to do that, because if I wasted her time and she had to remove it, then she was gonna be irritated. Straight up told me that, sis. Y'all, it was just one thing after another, one complaint after another. I would file complaints and these people just don't have any compassion and they just did not care. So I was taking the birth control, and at this time I'm feeling so defeated, guys, just mainly because I'm taking this birth control. I don't want to take the birth control because of the side effects of birth control, but at the same token, I'm not getting the care that I feel like I need from doctors. So while I'm taking the birth control, if you guys have been following me for a while, then you know that my wife had deployed. So when she came back in 2019, the same day she came back, and I had to go have a biopsy done on my right breast because a month before that, 2 months before that, a month before that in October, I found a lump in my breast, and that is one of the side effects from the birth control. So it came back benign, but just the fact that that was another thing that I had to go through because no one was giving me the care that I needed. So I said all that to say is, if someone is telling you something that you do not agree with, it doesn't matter that they have PhD behind their name. Do what's best for you, do your research, and do not stop until you get the care that you need. I have been asked why, not by you guys, but from others, why I didn't have a myomectomy. If you do not know what a myomectomy is, definitely do your research. But all in all, it's a procedure, or you can do ablation. It's a procedure that remove the fibroids, but it is a chance that your fibroids will definitely come back. So in my situation, I chose not to do a myomectomy because, one, I had already done the Lupron and the fibroids were not shrinking. They continued to grow, so I knew that that probably wouldn't be the best option for me. And two, I just did not want to go through surgery twice. So I knew I didn't want to have any more kids. We had been discussed that was definitely not something that we wanted to do. As far as have any more kids, girl, listen, I was good on that. So finding someone to actually listen to me was the next best option. I was starting to seek out someone to help me. So fast forward, we moved here to Georgia, and after my primary seen my record, she immediately referred me to an OBGYN. This was the kicker. This time the doctor that I saw, he was a man, amazing, like he was God sent, but he specialized in what I was going through. And that made me feel so good. He went through my chart. He was like, well, let me tell you what your options are. Option was a myomectomy. That was not recommended for me just because of everything that I had went through leading up to seeing him. So he did say that I should not have ever been on Lupron, and looking back on it, that makes so much sense. His main reason, because I am a severe anemic. I am still anemic till this day. That has not changed. But ultimately, because I was anemic and I was getting Lupron, that Lupron was taking so much away from my body that I actually needed. So he was like, that should not have ever been on the table for you. And that didn't shock me that he said that, because my hematologist back in Tennessee, he said that without saying that at the time that I was seeing him. So he gave me my options. Me and Portia discussed my options, and I decided to go with a hysterectomy, mainly because, one, I didn't want any more children, and two, because of my situation now with my new doctor. We did another ultrasound, and now I had 2 more fibroids that had grown. So I started off with 1, then it was 2, now it's 4. Girl, and once they go in and do the surgery, they never know how many more there is that they just can't see with an ultrasound. So I was supposed to have my original surgery in April, and because of everything with C19 that's going on, I wasn't able to do that. So I finally got my surgery to be scheduled in September, because I just refused to go into a new year of my life with this continuing to go on. Like, I was done with the birth control. I did not want to be on that anymore, just because I had developed a cyst in my breast. And the reason how I found out about that being in my breast is because I'm putting my hand up like I'm finna do it, but I do my yearly exam, girl. please do your your monthly exams in the shower, you know, where you're supposed to feel around the breast area, make sure everything is nice. And I believe that it's recommended that you do it after your cycles, that's when you're supposed to like feel around and make sure everything is good. So do your yearly exam at the doctor and make sure you are checking yourself every month around your breast area. If I'm not mistaken, it is after. So I found the lump in my breast myself and made an appointment with my doctor. Like, my doctors didn't find that and then did everything. I found that myself. So I do have a small metal chip in my right breast now to let them know if anything ever comes of it, that one has been checked out and it is benign. So I did want to say that that's how that came about, but I did not want to continue to take birth control. I ended up having my surgery September the 8th, and I'm not gonna lie, a few days before I had my surgery, I was ready to cancel it. I was terrified. I was so scared, guys. And I think it's because from April to September, so much time had passed before I was able to talk to my doctor. So his team had scheduled me to have a one-on-one with him again before my surgery, to where he blocked out some time to talk to me, and Portia was on FaceTime and I was in the doctor because only one of us could go into the doctor at a time. And I also wanted to make sure she was able to be in the hospital with me. So when the hospital was letting one person go in with you from day surgery, then I was comfortable enough to have my surgery. But I was like, maybe I shouldn't get my uterus taken out. Like, I went into panic mode. Like, I was crying, ugly cry. Portia was like, you should talk to your doctor. So his team set up an appointment for me and him to have a one-on-one, and I'm so grateful for him and to his team. They were amazing. He listened to me. He spoke to me. He answered all my questions with care. His bedside manner was amazing. And first and foremost, he never told me that the reason why I was having the issues that I was having is because I was Black. And when I told him that was my experience, he was like, no one should ever tell you that. Like, he was like, no, that is like the best experience that I had going through all of what I was going through. So yeah, I just really appreciate him and his team. So moving on, I did have what they call a liposcopic hysterectomy. I feel like I'm pronouncing that right. So everything was robotic. I do still have both of my ovaries because my ovaries were in good condition. So I am not on any hormone treatment or anything like that. He only removed my uterus and he removed my tubes, so I will not have another cycle and I am not able to have any babies, which I'm not mad about. And I was feeling shame about that when I would have conversations with people, because it was almost like I was blacklisted in a way, because some people feel like you're removing your womanhood, but honey, I feel more like a woman than ever because I feel my best self and I'm healthy now, and I'm so grateful and happy to have had a doctor that actually cared. And I am so grateful that if I wanted to have another child, that he was willing to make sure that that happened for me and for my wife. Like, he was very open-minded and I appreciated him for that. So I have 4 incisions that go across my belly, and he was able to remove everything vaginally. So I don't have any major cuts. I do have some scarring from the 4 incisions, but it's not nothing major at all. And they did heal up nice. I will say that the recovery from the anesthesia was far worse than the actual surgery itself, because your girl just doesn't do well with medicine. So as far as my recovery time, I did stay out of work 3.5 weeks, and then when I finally did go to work, I was still super fatigued. It took me a minute to get back into it. I would still go to the gym and work out, but definitely lightweight, because you're not supposed to be lifting excuse me, anything over 10 pounds for a certain amount of time. So although I was walking, or when I was going to the gym, I was just doing a walk on the treadmill just to get my body going. As far as my side effects, one big side effect is when I had what I had from the anesthesia, and it was constipation, girl. I was hunched over in pain because I was so... Girl, listen, the anesthesia is no joke. So I went back to the doctor because I thought I had messed something up, and I didn't. They did another ultrasound and they were like, you're literally full of shit. Like, literally. So I had to do the magnesium citrate again, which you have to clean your body out before surgery anyway. And once I did that, I was good to go. And you want to make sure that you're passing gas and all that good stuff. So that was that. And nipple sensitivity, girl. So I started experiencing nipple sensitivity around the time that I was supposed to be having my cycle, and y'all, it was something serious. It was so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. So I was wearing sports bras 24/7 even to sleep in, just because they were so sensitive. But as far as anything else, it wasn't nothing crazy. I did spot a little bit after my cycle, after surgery, and I think I only spotted for, I want to say 2.5 weeks, and then I was good. So that, it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't heavy at all. Like, it wasn't even like blood, if that makes sense. So that was that. When I went back for my 6-week checkup, everything was good. I did have an internal like stitch that he had to put some silver sealant on. It wasn't infected or anything like that. It was just healing slower than all of the other ones. So he just put a silver sealant on that. And he was like, are you still bleeding? I was like, no. He was like, oh, that's so good. All of the fibroids that he removed, it ended up being a total of 4. When he called Portia and talked to Portia after my surgery, he did tell her that they were big. So if I would have waited, he probably would not have been able to remove them vaginally. He would have actually had to cut me, and that's something to be aware of. The longer you wait, the more difficult your surgery would be. I'm in pretty good shape, thank God, so I was able to recover a lot faster, and I was tolerable to a lot. I only took 2 pain pills the entire time during recovery, and one was the very night that I came home, and I refused to take it at first, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I was cramping, so I needed something for that. And then the next night I did take one just to really help relax my body so that I could get some sleep, because I had to sleep sitting up because of my bobos across my stomach. So if you've ever had a C-section, that is what it felt like. Because of the incisions, I couldn't lay on my side, I had to lay on my back. So as far as recovery, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. If you are in somewhat physical shape, then you'll be good. Breathing was a little difficult just because of the anesthesia, but I would take deep breaths, and I was like training my body, and that's why it was important for me to just walk around the house or walk up and down the street, and make sure that you have somebody with you. Trinity and Portia were always with me. Again, no heavy lifting or anything like that, but your doctor tells you exactly what to do, and definitely follow your doctor's orders. Girl, just do it. Do what they tell you to do. So the last thing that I want to talk about is, do I regret my decision? And the answer is absolutely not. I am sad that I had to wait so long for somebody to actually help me, but I am so grateful, because I do feel like that everything happens for a reason, and I was sent to my doctor for a reason. People travel all across the country to go to him for issues with their fibroids and different things dealing with their uterus. So I knew that I was in good hands. He always would tell me what my options were. We had several conversations, and he would never let me leave his office giving him a decision. He would always say, go home, talk it over with your wife, and then call us, or if you guys want to come back in, then come back in and we can have another conversation. He never rushed me to make a decision. His staff never rushed me to make a decision. We explored all of my options. We continued to go back over everything that I had went through. And he also ran all of his own tests. He also made sure that he had his own scans because he wanted to get fresh eyes. He didn't want to just go off of what everyone else was saying and then make a decision. So that is another thing that I appreciated about him and his staff. Even after surgery, if I had questions, his on-call nurse was amazing. They were so kind, so understanding. So definitely find you someone that you feel comfortable with. I never, not once, felt like I wasn't in good hands. Even the day of, he came in, Portia couldn't be at the back with me, but he came in, we had a conversation. I asked him a few questions and he was like, anything else? And I was like, no. He was like, let's rock and roll. And we did like a fist pump, like, y'all, he was for me. I just appreciate him so much, and I'm so happy with my decision. I'm so grateful for my wife and my daughter, because without them, the healing process probably would have been a lot worse, because you're going to need somebody. Sis, okay? I am very independent, but I found myself being very dependent on my family, and this was the first time I had ever been down and out. This is the first time they had ever seen me. Look, sis, I was rough. I was rough. But it was the first time that I wasn't like the go-to. And I appreciated my wife and my kids stepping up. So definitely make sure that if you are going to decide to go through with a hysterectomy, that you have someone to take care of you. So I hope that I was able to kind of give you guys some insight on my story. Hopefully when I edit this video, it's not super long, but I did want to share with you guys my experience. I also wanted to be very honest, open, and transparent about you taking care of yourself and my experience that I dealt with several different doctors. You are not going through this because of the color of your skin. You're definitely finding that care that you need, and also do your own research. If you don't feel comfortable with something that someone is saying, get a second opinion. And that's exactly what I did, guys. I think over the course of my whole journey, I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doctors. And my 5th doctor was the one that was willing to help me. And what was crazy was all of the other doctors that I saw were women. They were women. He was the only male that I saw, and he was willing to take me serious. So yeah, let me know down below if you guys can relate to anything that I'm saying. Also, let me know down below if you found this video to be helpful. If you guys have a question that I did not answer, leave it down in the comment section and I will try my best to answer it. If you have any questions in general, and if you guys have experienced it and you see those questions down below, definitely be willing to help out a friend, girl, because on this channel we are all friends and we want to be positive and uplifting and help each other in any way that we can. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, stop rambling as always, wrap this video up, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys.